الله ندافع عن الأقصى إن شاء الله. إحنا موجودين هون.
This has become a familiar scene. Dozens of Israeli forces in riot gear storming the grounds of Al-Aqsa just after daybreak, firing rubber bullets, tear gas, and stun grenades. Young Palestinians respond with fireworks, throwing rocks and anything they can find. It is the height of the holy month of Ramadan.
واجا هون طلعوا علينا، طلعوا الشرطه من الساعه 6:30 والضباط وقاعدين بيحرجوا بيقيموا، خذوا كل العالم من هون وودوهم غاد، النسوان فوتوهم على الصخره والزلام اخذوهم طلعوهم برا. طب لايمتى يعني؟ احنا بدنا نصلي، بدنا نستغفر، بدنا رمضان طلعوه على روسنا. رمضان هذا بيت الله، مصر الرسول.
Israeli authorities have bowed to pressure from far-right settlers who have demanded access to Al-Aqsa to pray during the Jewish holiday of Passover. Under the agreement between Israel, Jordan, and the Palestinian Authority, only Muslim worshippers are allowed to pray inside. But this rule is routinely broken. Each time it is, violent raids commence by Israeli soldiers to clear out Palestinians from the mosque and its surrounding complex, before settlers are escorted through under heavy guard. This year, Passover coincided with the 14th day of Ramadan, on Friday, when thousands of Palestinians usually enter the mosque to spend the day. That morning, Israeli forces entered. The raids have continued each morning, leaving dozens hospitalized. For the Israeli settlers, the grounds of Al-Aqsa represent the holy site of ancient Jewish temples. Under Jewish law, their entry is strictly forbidden. But in recent years, far-right Zionist figures have popularized the idea and pressured the government into allowing them regular access.
באתי לכאן ואני אומר בצורה מפורשת, אני לא ממצמץ, לא מתקפל. יש יהודים שלא נכנעים לחמאס.
We want to go to all over the Jerusalem and our government doesn't let us to do it.
We lived in a reality where Jerusalem was divided into two, and we're never going to accept that reality again.
Many Palestinians fear their real intention is to take over the complex and destroy the holy mosque in order to restore the Jewish temples.
People here have a real worry about their holy place. And Al-Aqsa and Jerusalem for the Palestinians is something that can't be tolerated. This is a kind of a national responsibility, personal responsibility, and international responsibility, cultural heritage responsibility to keep the identity of the city as it is, not to be Judaized and to erase the whole history of the city. That's what they want.
And while Israeli leaders have denied this, many have used the complex to gain favor among right-wing and religious voters. In September 2000, soon-to-be Prime Minister Ariel Sharon's visit to Al-Aqsa under heavy guard provoked widespread protests, which led to the start of the Second Intifada. Last year in May, footage of violent raids sparked rocket fire from Gaza in retaliation, leading to a devastating 11-day bombing campaign by Israel. Each time the Israelis raid the area, tensions heighten across Palestinian towns, and worshippers flock to the mosque to defend it.
لا احنا بنسأل عن شرفنا، عن عرضنا، عن ديانتنا، عن مقدساتنا.
For them, Al-Aqsa represents a red line, the final showdown in the battle for the holy site, for Jerusalem, and against the occupation.
شوفي كل الشباب جوا ميدين ولا حدا تساعد فيهم. الله اكبر عليكم، شو تستنوا؟ ما خلاش بنت ولا ضربوها لنا جوا، المسجد القبلي كلها تتكسر. الله اكبر عليكم على امتكم، الشباب جوا كلهم دم، المصلى كله نازل.
Ramadan prayers explode into violence as Israeli forces storm Al-Aqsa Mosque. They fire stun grenades, tear gas and rubber-coated steel bullets. Several Palestinians are wounded, eyewitnesses claiming some medics were prevented from reaching them. Videos showing armed troops forcibly removing Palestinians from the Al-Aqsa compound. Tensions intensified elsewhere on the streets of occupied East Jerusalem. An armed Israeli settler was blamed for shooting and injuring a Palestinian teenager near the village of Silwan. He was carried through the old city and taken to hospital. Elsewhere, Israeli forces confronted Palestinian protesters denouncing the earlier violence.
I think what we see today is a very serious provocation, and it will definitely lead to an escalation. And maybe this is exactly what this Israeli government wants. They want to distract attention from their internal division, from the demonstrations that are taking place inside Israel against this government. And they want to drag the whole region into a total explosion.
Earlier on Wednesday, Israeli forces stormed the mosque and fired stun grenades during Ramadan prayers. They accused worshippers of barricading themselves inside. Videos showed women and children crying for help as Israeli forces beat worshippers with batons. That resulted in at least 12 Palestinians being injured. More than 400 others were arrested. Islam's third holiest site is once again at the heart of tensions. The United Nations Security Council will convene an emergency session on Thursday to discuss recent violence in occupied East Jerusalem. With Ramadan, Passover and Easter holidays overlapping this coming weekend, tensions are running high. Ben Tornquist, Al Jazeera.
Hossam Zaki is the Assistant Secretary General of the Arab League, and he says Palestinians need protection now.
This is a very tense situation, and we not only, of course, condemn it, and we lay the blame totally and squarely on the Israeli government. This is a political organization. We can do political and diplomatic work, and this is exactly what we are set out to do. We are going to work politically and diplomatically to expose what Israel has been doing. It's not that we need another excuse from the Israeli occupation forces to storm in the Al-Aqsa Mosque. They never run out of excuses. They always tell you that there will be youth barricading, amassing guns and so on. We've heard this so many times. It is almost irrelevant at this point. This is a government that is bent on harming the Palestinian population, on using all sorts of violence and extreme force in order to make them comply with its will. And it's not going to happen. We know it's not going to happen. Anyone who has a little knowledge about the situation would have told you a month ago, 2 months ago, that in Ramadan, things are going to flare up, because in Ramadan, they use maximum force, and the Palestinians who come to the mosque to pray are not going to take this force all that peacefully. So it's going to be, there are going to be flashes.
Judaism is okay, Zionism is no way. Judaism is okay,
Palestine! You have no right to Palestine! Zionism is no way! Palestine! You have no right to Palestine! So... Judaism is okay, Zionism is no way! Palestine! You have no right to Palestine! So...
Movement start. My grandmother tell me before the Zionist movement start, they babysitting each other, the kids. They bar offen watch each other like brothers, like brothers. The idea of Zionism take away the land from the Palestinians, from the Arabs, starting the whole fighting. Not Arabs the problem, not Jews the problem, not Judaism, not Muslim, only Zionism. Not Muslim, only Zionism. Not Muslim, only Zionism. Judaism, not Muslim, only Zionism. Problem, not Judaism, not Muslim, only Zionism.
עם ישראל כופר בעבודה זרה הציונית ומקבלים על ציונים ואינם יהודים אויל גזירת הגולוס הציונים עמך שאינם יהודים עם ישראל
Every single day for the speedy and peaceful dismantlement of the state of Israel. Then we can once again coexist as we have for hundreds of years. We have all the rabbis who will testify lived in the old state of Jerusalem, in the old state, in the old city of Jerusalem, in the old city. They lived door by door. This rabbi lived in the old city of Jerusalem before 1948. He'll tell you how he lived, coexisted with all the Arab neighbors, how they babysat each other's children when they went to Yom Kippur, when the women went to Yom Kippur on the fast day, the Muslim neighbors babysat the children, the most precious objects they gave to them to protect. How could that be if they're our enemies, mortal enemies? Because they're not. It's not a religious conflict. That's a Zionist ploy of accusing everybody of being anti-Semitic. You want peace? You want to have a conference here of peace? Step back and look and read the facts. Not the facts that's been misconstrued by the Zionist propaganda. The facts that are realities. The facts on the ground. How we've been living for hundreds of years in Yemen, in Morocco, in Tunisia, in Palestine, in Egypt. What Arab land have not Jewish people been living together with Muslims without any human rights groups? Tell me what land the Jews
Muslims. In Iran, we have over 25,000 Jews there, thank God. Why? Because this is not a religious conflict. It's purely because of a political movement, a relatively new movement, which is antithetical, contradictory to the Jewish religion of thousands of years. Judaism is spirituality, a religion of compassion to emulate God. Zionism has been created 100 years ago by atheists, people who have abhorred religion, who wanted to transform Judaism from religion to nationality, to a purely materialistic base, godless in its essence. That is not Judaism, and they have no right to use the name of Israel. They've usurped our name, they've stolen our symbols, and they've stolen our identity. And they are causing death and destruction year in and year out. For over 50 years, death and bloodshed has not stopped because of a pure ideological belief called Zionism. They sacrifice on their idol bodies, human beings, hearts, souls. They rent, they've destructed houses, they've destructed people's lives. What can we do about this? Let's step back and think. There is a solution with God's help. If we would put away the politics, then we could know that we've been living and coexisting together. We most profusely apologize to the Muslims, to the Arabs, for what has been done to them. And then we can return, they make restitution for what has been done to them. And then we will be able to live in harmony. Not an Israeli state, a one Palestinian state. One state as we have been living for hundreds of years. There will be peace. And you will see that this 50 years has been a nightmare, a mirage, and nothing to do. Pure fear-mongering, that's what Zionism does. It's panic, going into a theater and yelling, fire, fire, that's what Zionists do. We've been living with the Muslims. We've been living, yes, Ahmadinejad keeps on stating that he does not want to harm the Jews, but the Zionists keep on antagonizing him. Of course you don't, because you have an agenda. You want to further Zionism. You want enemies. You want enemies in order to be able to say you're protecting the Jews. We don't want enemies. We want to live in peace. We have been always living in peace with the Muslims, and we will, with God's help, continue to live with them in peace. We implore the participants in this conference, read, step back, study the history truthfully, and see what the true Jewish voice is of hundreds of thousands of Jews who are still true to their religion, whether they're living in Jerusalem, whether they're living in New York. What do these Jews in Williamsburg section of Brooklyn, hundreds of thousands of Jews who are the most God-fearing in the community, why are they all opposed to the state of Israel? Why was that one Israeli flag in Williamsburg, Brooklyn? These are the most God-fearing religious Jews.
The Israeli Zionists act like Nazis. Come and get me. Okay, I'm here. Come and get me. They act like Nazis. I'm not going to be told what I can say and what I can believe. I see the video of them shooting 14-year-old Palestinian boys. That's a Nazi. I don't care what their race is. I don't care who they claim to be. When you shoot 14-year-old boys in the head, you're a Nazi. Right? They oppress the Palestinian people. They steal their lands. They rob them. They treat them like animals.
Jews and pilgrimage. Jews and Muslims pray together. Jews and Muslims pray together. Jews and Muslims pray together. Jews and Muslims pray together at Morocco pilgrimage site. Safi, a city on the western coast of Morocco, was the site this past Sunday of a joyous gathering of Muslims and Jews who came together in prayer. Safi is the destination for Jewish pilgrims who come annually to pray at the tomb of a 15th century rabbi, Abraham ben Zamiro. Many who attended this year's commemoration are of Moroccan descent and maintain strong ties with the country. Muslims also joined in the prayers with a half-Jewish, half-Muslim band that sang songs of heavenly praise in French, Arabic and Hebrew. What a remarkable gathering! Bravo, Moroccan citizens and visitors alike, for your warmly inspiring atmosphere of friendship. We pray that people of all faiths in the world come together in understanding and brotherly love.
How are you? Thank you. Thank you. Welcome to the Islamic Center. Thank you. Thank you. Is it okay if I pray in here? Is it okay if you pray? If I pray in here. Of course. Of course. It's the house of worship, no matter what. The meaning is. Thank you. God bless. Thank you. You okay if I pray next to you? Fine. You don't mind? No. Does it make you uncomfortable? You sure? Not at all. All right. This is the house of God. This is the house of God? Yeah. How are you, brother? How are you? Do you hate Jewish people?
No, I love Jewish people. I love Christians, I love Jews, I love Muslims.
Right.
That's what our faith teaches us.
How you doing, brother?
What's your name, sir?
My name is Levi.
Levi Osama. Pleasure to meet you. I'm the manager here. Yeah, we're all praying to the same God.
Yes.
We're all praying to peace, so we can all pray together.
Yes.
No problem.
So Jew is not the enemy of the Muslims?
Things that are happening politically around the world are attached to our faith all the time.
We also acknowledge that the Torah was given by the same God. We acknowledge that. Second chapter in the book says we have to believe in the previous revelations also.
You open our Quran, you're going to see the same stories in the Quran that are in the Torah or in the Bible, in the New Testament and the Old Testament.
Thank you.
See you,
nice to meet you.
Please go ahead and pray.
Thank you. Thank you. Nice to meet you. How you doing? Nice to meet you.
The conflict between people that are happening is not coming from the original instructions in the book. They're coming from politics, geography.
The countries are struggling with understanding where culture ends and religion starts.
Yeah. So why do we fight?
Politics.
Terrorism is actually a political issue, keeps being tied to religion.
So you as a person, as a Muslim, when you see a Jew in the street, what do you feel?
He's my friend. Just like a human being.
He's a human being.
Just like I'm feeling with you right now.
Hate and jealousy is a sickness at heart.
Yes, it is.
It's not natural. We don't just go and hate people.
But why Muslims like you, they don't see them in the media?
This is the thing. They don't allow. I'm responsible.
They don't allow you?
No. I'm responsible for my action.
Yes. So how can you stop this whole war between Jewish people and Muslims?
Breaking the status quo exactly as how you did when you came into this.
The state of Israel cannot speak in our name. We are Jews believing in God, and there are atheists that don't believe in God. They're going against God. So that's the message that we want to bring out. Oh, we're wearing the Israeli flag every year on Purim. Purim is the day that marks up the victory of the good side on the bad side. Purim is a day what we try to wipe out. I mean, we can't wipe out with hands, but we speak to God and we ask them to wipe out Amalek. Amalek, the Satan, is the bad side. In every generation, you have something what it symbolizes, the bad side, the side of Amalek, the side of Satan. In today's day, this is the state of Israel. The state of Israel is a rebellion against God. God sent us in exile, and asked us to stay in exile, not to go out with our own power.
Go ahead.
Hi. During your speech, you made a lot of references to Jewish people as well as certain people in your audience, not Jewish people in general, but certain people, especially in your audience, to Nazis. Now, that is extremely offensive when certain people are German. And they're also extremely offensive to people who've actually suffered under Nazi rule.
I don't respect that anymore. I really don't. I don't like and I don't respect the crocodile tears to the crocodile tears. No. Folks, allow me to finish and allow me to finish. Listen, sir. Allow me to finish. Sir, I don't like to play before an audience the Holocaust card. But since now I feel compelled to. My late father was in Auschwitz. My late mother, please shut up. My late father was in Auschwitz. My late mother was in Majdanek concentration camp. Every single member of my family on my father's side,
the Jews did not take arms against the Germans.
My late father was in Auschwitz concentration camp. My late mother was in Majdanek concentration camp. Every single member of my family on both sides was exterminated. Both of my parents were in the Warsaw Ghetto Uprising. And it's precisely and exactly because of the lessons my parents taught me and my two siblings that I will not be silent when Israel commits its crimes against the Palestinians. And I consider nothing more despicable than to use their suffering and their martyrdom to try to justify the torture, the brutalization, the demolition of homes that Israel daily commits against the Palestinians. So I refuse any longer to be intimidated or browbeaten by the tears. If you had any heart in you, you would be crying for the Palestinians, not for what's been done.
What? Could I just calm the audience down?